Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi there. Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Steve Arterburn, and so glad that you've joined me today. I've got a great guest, a guy named Derek Irvin, and he like one of the 20th largest churches in America, he has exploded the Life Recovery ministry there, and we're going to talk about all of that with him in just a minute. But it is November, and so we're looking at the 11th step because we like to kind of stick with a step in whatever month it's in. And so here, this 11th step, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and for the power to carry it out. His will for us and the power to carry it out. I was on the radio show just today, and there was somebody who said, well, look, honey, I'm not using pornography anymore, so get over it. Well, there's such a difference in stopping something and then starting to work the steps that culminate in us trying to grow and increase and strengthen and enrich our contact with God. Listen to this great scripture. What joy for those whose strength comes from the Lord, who have set their minds on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. When they walk through the valley of weeping, it will become a place of refreshing springs. The autumn rains will clothe it with blessings. They will continue to grow stronger. Isn't that what recovery is all about? And each of them will appear before God in Jerusalem. O Lord God of heaven's armies, hear my prayer. Listen, O God of Jacob. Now that's Psalm 84, 5-8. There's so much growth to be done. And this every day, asking God, okay, show me your will, God, and I can't do it on my own. I need some power here to carry it out. It's humbling, it's connecting with God, and it really does produce a life of recovery beyond anything you could do just by stopping something that was killing you. So we want to see people work the steps, not starting with step 11, because that's what a lot of people do. Well, I'm really praying and reading my Bible. I think, hey, listen, you need other people, and that's starting actually at what the 11th step is all about. And you need to do them in order, beginning with that humbling process in the beginning of saying, I can't do this on my own. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk with Derek, who has a great recovery story in his family, how he was introduced to the 12 steps, and how these groups, these life recovery groups, have just exploded at Northview Church, where I get to be a teaching pastor. We'll be back after this.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today, and you can see I have a guest today, Derek Irvin. And Derek is head of all the groups and teams, big deal, at Northview Church, which is one of the top 20 churches, largest churches in America. Derek, great to have you here and great to work with you. Now, let's just start by saying we're almost married to the same person. His wife's name is Missy, my wife's name is Misty, but two very, very different people.
We both have a daughter named Amelia.
That's right.
As well.
Yeah. So, and our boys actually roomed together at one point at the university. Yeah. So, how did you end up at Northview? Like 2003, you started there?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was actually hired out of the congregation. So I was in the business world, went to school for business, and was very involved in the church.
Sounds like when you're hired out of the congregation, somebody said, "Anybody wanted this job?" And okay. You can have it. But you were going there when the job came available.
I was. And it was kind of fun being a pastor who got to choose my church rather than choosing to be a pastor who gets my church chosen for me.
No kidding, right.
That was a blessing, yeah.
That's really neat. And for a long time, you guys didn't have recovery groups and things. And it was so fascinating because when I talked to Steve Poe, he told me that he had come from a church where, like, their one recovery meeting, they were having like 140 people. It just didn't make sense, but, you know, he was involved in a lot of other things. He had other priorities. But then you said, we got to do this. Talk about that a little bit, and we'll just do this in reverse, and we'll hear about your story in just a bit.
Yeah, you know, it started with a desire to be able to have environments where people who were in need of recovery, whatever that may look like, be it substances or sexual addiction or whatever the case, to have an environment for them. Yeah. You know, and of course the model for most churches around the country is to have a big gathering, right? And then we'll break up into small breakout sessions.
And you asked me, I remember, you said, now if we do this recovery thing, we got to have this big thing. And I said, no, why don't you just do a little group, and if nobody shows up, then maybe some other church needs to be doing this and not us.
Yeah, I think that was really big in getting us started. I think a lot of times it's easy to imagine it's got to be so big that you never start.
Right.
You know, so to be able to just start with, hey, let's start with a group, a life group, really got us off the ground.
Yeah, and then Michael Carey comes along, which is what you really want to have happen in a church. And you know, you might be that person. This one guy was interested in doing every man's battle groups. And so...
Yeah, well, it was actually Michael and his wife, Kristen.
Right.
And so I remember having coffee with them in our coffee shop at the church. And my encouragement to them was to get their life group together, because they had put a life group together of some people that they had either helped or knew had started recovery, and to just start as a life group. Yeah. And what it was so neat, as we kind of imagined what it could be someday, today that group and those people in that group are the leaders of a ministry that are impacting, goodness, over 150 people a week amongst every one of our campuses, as well as other churches around the country.
Right. And so one person, just with a willingness and a desire, who's got a wife like Kristen, who I had Michael on, and we were talking about how Misty really felt like it was a God appointment when she was in a recovery group and was in charge of the newcomer meeting, and here comes Kristen walking in. Misty became her sponsor, and then Misty would tell you that Kristen has just exceeded her in everything, and so she's got so much respect for her, and I have for both of them. But the way you've done it, every man's battle is one thing, chemical dependency is another, but they cover, well, tell us what all it covers.
Yeah, so we have a vibrant divorce care ministry, grief share, cancer companion. We have sexual integrity groups for both men and women, partners group for women, sexual abuse recovery, and we also have a number of groups on emotional health, and really going deep into understanding how your past impacts your present from an emotional health standpoint.
What are those called?
Those are called growth seekers, and just so good.
And Bob and Sue,
Jeff and Sue.
Jeff and Sue started Growth Seekers. And I would just say this, all these other groups, if you want to come and just sit back and do nothing, you can just be there. But when you're in Growth Seekers, they're expecting you to open up, share, and do the work. It's like a support group, recovery group, college master's degree in psychology on steroids. It's all of that.
I love that. So just a quick story about that. We had a guy come through that group and just did so well, they asked him if he would be a co-leader. And, he's worried about being away from his family, young family. Went to his wife, asked her. And she said, I'll tell you what, I would rather have the Corey, it's his name, I'd rather have the Corey now 6 days a week than the old Corey 7 days a week.
No
you
kidding.
go do it. And it's that impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the great joys that could happen in anybody's church if you do it, and you could find out about life recovery by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd give you all the scoop. But one of the great joys is it's not just these groups meeting and nobody knows who's going, but we get to hear their testimonies. I mean, we've got a great tech crew, and videography is so powerful, but we hear their stories of transformation. And I don't know, I think we've got more transformed lives than any other church. That's the amazing thing to me. And you're leading that up. Now, you also do a marriage intensive for couples.
That's correct, yes.
And you went to our marriage intensive, and you and Missy, and but now you're bringing church members along. Talk about the value of a couple getting away for an intensive, concentrated time.
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife's a licensed marriage family therapist, and together it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And what I always tell couples is it doesn't fix everything, but it stabilizes a marriage in crisis.
Yeah.
And for many couples, it gives them hope and desire at the same time. Hope is, I actually believe it could work, and desire is, there's at least a part of me that wants to try. And when you have a couple that's really in crisis, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I just wish more people would be willing to do kind of what I tell folks. Okay, so you guys are in trouble. You think you're going to get a divorce. How about just saying to your spouse, okay, if we're going down this path, let's just be able to say we did everything we possibly could, and let's do this experience, whether it's you or with us, because just the willingness to do it kind of changes a little bit. But then they go there and they learn, hey, we're experiencing what anybody that's been through what we've been through would experience, and we need to give it another chance.
Yeah, well, not only that, but to be able to look your kids in the eyes someday and said, look, we did everything we could. And I've told many a couple, you haven't.
Yeah.
You want to be able to have that peace of mind, to be able to say, I turned over every stone, and you haven't done that yet.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that somebody watching this is going to be saying, I want to do in my church what Derek has done using the volunteers and stuff, because really you will see a ministry spring up that a lot of people never even dreamed your church could have. Now, Derek, how many folks in a given week would be in one of the life recovery groups at the church?
I would estimate 160, if I were just kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to recovery meetings at some of the bigger churches in America, and that's the kind of number that can happen in these big churches. But I've seen those same numbers in smaller churches in smaller towns, because people don't want to be in recovery in their own church, and so they come over to your group. But really, we've got a starter kit that you could get at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and you could be really the springboard of recovery in your church. Now, everybody has a story. Whether it's a good story or not, you still have a story. But Derek's got a great story. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Derek about that story. And I tell you, I've watched Derek progress, grow, be the leader that he's. One of the easiest guys I've ever worked with in my life. And he just doesn't get distracted by all the side things that other people do. And I think that's why the ministry is so strong. All right, you stay tuned. We'll take a short break and come back with Derek Irvin and Life Recovery.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis, someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
One of the things we say at our church is that every number has a name, and every name has a story, and every story, God really cares about that story. And my guest, Derek, he's got a story, and it's a good one. If your story isn't so great, well, we could do something about that. But Derek, let's just start with, you really are an advocate for recovery, and many of the groups are 12 steps, some of the groups are not. But let's talk about your life recovery story with the 12-step work.
Yeah, so my recovery story is largely related to my son. He's now an adult, he's 32. I adopted him when he was 7 years old. He came from, his birth dad was an addict, and addiction started to show up in his life early high school. And, it's kind of, you go through this series of, okay, he's hanging out with this kid.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Okay, that kid's a bad influence. Hanging out with this kid. Okay, that other kid's a bad influence. You go through that enough time, and it kind of is like, what if our kid's the bad influence?
Yeah, right.
And so it became, it escalated quite a bit. By junior year in high school, between, some mental health, suicidal things, using, and every intervention and counselor you could think of, we were really at our wits' end.
Did you ever think this just isn't, it's not going to turn around, or did you always think someday maybe, or what was that like as a parent?
Being a parent of a son with addiction is excruciating because your heart is always hoping and your hopes are being dashed.
Yeah.
Maybe the next youth group, maybe the next church camp, maybe the next rehab, maybe the next, and it doesn't always take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you loved him, you weren't going to abandon him, you're a great guy. What was the thing that turned things around for you as a family and for him?
Yeah. Well, I would start by saying that there's a large part of this that we still live.
Yeah, right.
But two answers to that question. One was, I think, my wife and I did a good job looking at it in retrospect of kind of being hands wide open. Our attitude was like, we don't have time for pride in this. We're trying to keep this kid alive.
Yep.
Like, show me what I'm doing, tell me what I could do differently. And so we had counselors who spoke truth into us. That was a big one. The other one was Al-Anon, was huge.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Yeah, because Misty, was on this program. She's literally been in that program for 20 years. A lot of people don't even know what it is. They go, well, wait, I'm not an alcoholic. Why would I go to Al-Anon? They just have never even looked into it. But of course, it's for family members of somebody that's struggling. Can you think of like something that came out of Al-Anon that really was a helpful
absolutely
concept?
Of course, they have the 3 C's. You didn't cause this, you can't control it, you can't cure it.
Yeah.
But of the 3, control was the biggest one for me. On the spectrum of kind of the enabling and running around letting things happen, and then the other end of hyper-controlling drill sergeant, I lean more on the hyper-controlling drill sergeant, and it was not working at all.
Yeah.
So to be able to hear other people share their stories and just come to the realization that, control is an illusion.
Yeah.
There's a lot we can control, but at the end of the day, he's going to be the one who decides if he's going to work a recovery, who decides if he's going to take his life or not take his life.
Right.
And man, having support and people around you living it to help you swallow that pill is invaluable.
Well, I remember seeing you with him, and if I remember correctly, he was smoking a cigarette, and I just thought, that's the Derek I love, because, he doesn't like everybody that goes to church and stuff. He's living his own life, and you're saying, I'm going to be with him. I don't care. I'm going to be with this boy, and I love that. As a Christian parent, it is easy to slip into trying to control or trying to change or cure with shame, and I don't want to, but it's so easy to do it. I mean, that was done to me. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Well, some of the stuff I did, I should have been ashamed of myself. But how do you help another parent that's watching? How do you avoid slipping into the shame mode? I know how I do it, but how do you do it?
It's a good question. I think, for me, I just have always been aware that this is and will be about his heart.
Yeah.
When I'm trying, or if I'm trying to control through outward appearances or shame, I'm trying to whitewash the tomb, and it's not getting through to his heart.
Right.
So he went through a period in high school where he would wear all black, kind of the goth kind of look, paint his fingernails black, and that was hard for me. Here I am, a pastor, and I'll be honest, I'm embarrassed that I can't believe you'd let him go out of the house like that.
Right.
Of course I want to say, if you knew what we were dealing with, you would realize what small potatoes this is.
Well, in one of the greatest stories I've ever heard, he ended up going to the discipleship walk. And he was the only one there who had black fingernails.
This is true, yes.
Can you just briefly tell that story of what the leader did when he discovered there he was with black fingernails?
Absolutely. So our son was using this to repel people.
Sure.
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
He had just an incredible table leader who saw what was happening. He saw how the other boys at the table were responding to him. It was effective. They were.
Yeah.
And he very intentionally asked my son for the black nail polish and proceeded to paint his nails black, and then to say, guys, it doesn't matter what's on the outside. And in that act of I'm with you, he built a bridge to my son's heart that really opened up a place for God to step into.
That story, when I heard it, it meant so. I mean, I wept just hearing that somebody would have the compassion and the grace to want to connect with him in that way. I've shared that story with so many people because it is. I think Christ would have done that. I think he would have said, "Let me paint my nails just like yours, so we've got a connection." And it's just another. It's another result of a grace-based church that really wants to reach people in ways that some churches they just never ever will. Any encouragement that you could give to a parent who wants the best, but maybe their child isn't there yet? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say that one, love them. Two, get help for yourself.
Yeah.
What I've just found in dealing in the recovery world, when I'm on the parent side of things, up is down, down is up.
Yes.
What seems right is wrong.
Right.
So get wise counsel, get help, love them well, and God's faithful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Derek talked about doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, or if it's maybe embarrassing to be with your child, but the child gets a message when you are that I am loved and accepted. Maybe I don't need to do that experiment anymore to determine if that's true. I'm going to take a break. I'll come right back with a couple of words about the 11th step as we close out our time.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here. And, you know, I just am so encouraged that a guy like Derek, I mean, he's persevering. He's in his own recovery, he and his wife. And, you know, it's just a great message to other people that no matter what you're doing, don't worry about the outside, what that looks like. Worry about what the inside is happening, what's going on inside of your children and, of course, you. Well, you know that one of my favorite books that we have is this Life Recovery Journey, 4 Bible studies for every step. When you get to the 11th step, there's a verse here that is so fantastic. It says this in Psalm 84. Let me read it to you. The Lord will withhold no good thing from those who do what is right. Now, isn't that incredible? What a verse. No wonder we want to increase our constant contact. And you know, one of the ways that we do that, if you're a mumbler and a complainer, if you're always, you know, talking to yourself or just talking out loud and complaining about the world, complain to God. He loves people that constantly seek Him and want to talk to Him. So rather than saying, you know, I don't know why, just say, hey God, I don't know why. And you'll become one of those people that prays without ceasing. And that really is what constant contact is all about. Now, if you need some help or a resource, I'd love for you to call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And, you know, I've said it before, but Derek's such a great example of what can happen when you open the door in a church for a life recovery meeting. You could end up helping a lot of people. And one of the exciting things about our church, we have all of these campuses in Indiana prisons. We've got a lot of people recovering. 1-800-NEW-LIFE if you need us. I'll see you next time right here on Life Recovery Today.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.